New Mexico Crime Files, a deep dive into the archives, shocking and notorious cases, the arrests and what led to them, and what happened to the suspect. Here are your hosts, Dean Staley and Jessica Garate.
Welcome to another episode of New Mexico Crime Files. I'm KRQE's Dean Staley, along with my co-anchor, Jessica Garate. We have been covering one of the biggest, highest profile crimes we've had in New Mexico in the last 20 years.
Yeah, this is a case from 2008, the case of Brittani Marcell. And she was a Cibola High School student, came home to meet her mom for lunch from school. They live near the school. When she's just brutally attacked by someone who has gotten into their home. And then her mother walks in and he threatens the mother, but he takes off running.
Mm-hmm.
This happens in 2008, and it would take years to get a break in the case. It was one that just terrified our city, terrified the state. Like, they couldn't figure out who would want to do something like this to a teenage girl.
9 years of living in fear for the community because they don't know who this is, and clearly it's someone in the community. This wasn't someone just, who found this home. I mean, there has to be some connection, right? So, but no one can figure out what the connection is. Badly beaten with a shovel by her attacker. Brittani's lost hearing on one side, vision on one side. She's gone through massive rehab to try to learn how to talk and walk and eat and swallow, all these things. An immense amount of work just to get back to normal, but still, just like the community, living day to day with the trauma of what happened. 9 years later before they catch the guy.
And this was billboards, America's Most Wanted. They would get tons of tips in, but none of them panned out.
Yeah, and a credit to the detectives that they stayed on this and continue to work it, even though all they had to go on was a fingerprint and a drop of blood, because the attacker, when Brittani's mother came home, the attacker picked up a knife, threatened her, but then ran off and cut himself on the window as he broke a window getting out. So there's a drop of blood, but there's no blood to match it to. If you just have a drop of blood, it doesn't matter how great the DNA is. If you have a fingerprint and you don't have fingerprints to match it to, it's not helpful evidence. So that's why it's been 9 years in this case before we get a break.
And I just remember we got a tip in the newsroom, and there was finally a break in the case. It's gone on for years, and I just really thought this was one that was going to be unsolved. They just could not figure out what had happened to her and who did it. And so finally, a break in July of 2017, police arrest a 33-year-old man named Justin Hansen. And how they finally got a crack in this cold case was really just remarkable. Yeah. It has to do with hypnosis and the DNA sample, and this is Lizzie Mitri reporting.
Overwhelmed. I'm emotional, but to say the least, I'm real thankful.
From out of state, Brittani Marcell's mother, Diane, spoke over the phone. And here in Albuquerque, her sisters talked of hearing the news from Brittani.
She's like, they caught him, Kathleen. And that, just the excitement. I haven't heard that excitement in a long time. I couldn't believe it. I fell on my knees. I was like, I cannot believe this is finally happening.
This following the arrest of Justin Hansen, cracking a 9-year-old cold case, police say. Hansen is accused of beating Marcell with a shovel at her home in 2008, nearly killing her, only running away after Marcell's mom arrived. Marcell was 17. Hansen would have been 24. Marcell woke up from a coma 2 weeks after the attack with no memory of who did it. But her mom says that changed as Brittani worked with APD over the years to regain that memory.
She would go through yearbooks, social media, at the request of some of the detectives, and try to find somebody that may know something or look at pictures to see if it would jar her brain.
2 years ago, she described what he looked like, leading to this sketch. Then last year, according to court documents, Marcell remembered Hansen's name. She told detectives he used to hang out with her at her work at Cottonwood Mall. When police say Hansen refused to provide DNA, they went undercover, getting his DNA from a McDonald's cup he had thrown out. Police say it was a match to blood on a broken window at the crime scene.
You're charged with attempted murder. Do you have anything to say about that?
He didn't have anything to say. Police say he requested a lawyer, and while the family doesn't doubt Hansen did it, they're left wondering why.
What pushed you over the edge? What caused you to do such a passionate crime? He's dangerous. He should not be on the street for what he did to Brittani.
So just the way they solved this is remarkable. You were talking about hypnosis, and so they never gave up working with Brittani because she couldn't remember who her attacker was. She was obviously face-to-face with him. But after the attack, this brutal attack with a shovel, being beaten badly with a shovel, she couldn't even remember most of her high school, right? We've done stories where she talked about, I remember my childhood like it was yesterday, but high school, I don't have any memory. So her sort of recent memory was absolutely gone. So they continue to work with her. Hypnosis, going through yearbooks, anything they could do to try to jog a memory. And I have to say, this feels like one of those, is life imitating art or is art imitating life? Because this feels so much like a soap opera to me. Where the person's in a coma or they have amnesia and then you don't, nothing is happening. Then like one day out of the blue, years later, because this is 9 years later, she just says, Justin Hansen, says it out loud. And that's it. The minute she says it, cops have a name to work with, and they have someone to look up, and they have someone to investigate, and they have someone ultimately to compare blood and fingerprint samples to.
And they go and arrest him, and he's been living his life like nothing. He's lived in Bosque Farms, had children, had gotten married, had children, just kept it on the radar. I do think, though, when I remember you look at his mugshot, and those eyes, like there's so like these dark circles under his eyes, and I'm like, you're like something was keeping you up. Like it just really, like to be that young and have that kind of baggage under your eyes, like it just really stood out to me. Yeah, like there was something bothering him
that had weighed on him.
Yeah.
Well, and now we know what
Maybe
it was.
Kept him up at night. Yeah, and then it's also this weird thing too. Like, what is he? He goes on in his life and he marries like younger girls. And so it was like, what was going on? Was he, she's working at the mall as a teenager. You've got this 24-year-old young man coming and talking to her. So that's how they knew each other. And so it was just this weird, like what was going on and led to this.
He definitely was age inappropriate for a teenager, right?
Yeah.
That's someone who's, there's a big difference between 18 and 24, right? As you get older, the difference between 30 and 36 isn't a lot maybe, but the difference between 18 and 24 is huge.
She's still in high school, and so there was something just weird, and it just struck me really odd.
And they knew right away, wait a second. Once we have the name, then we do know that he used to go to the mall. We do know. Suddenly they're getting this background that he does have a connection to her. Even before they're testing blood and fingerprints, they're saying, okay, this is not some guy who lives on a different part of the state, right? She mentioned a name, and they're starting to put together, okay, he did move in those circles.
Right.
And as you mentioned, Jess, when they asked for DNA, he didn't give it up. He said, no, I want to talk to a lawyer, and I don't want to give DNA. Right?
Yeah.
So that immediately sets up that, if you're innocent of this crime and it's not your DNA that was left at the house, then you're going to be the first one to say, please test me. That was not my DNA. So the fact that, and this happens often, right? They have a suspect and they have to get a warrant as well too. They can't just do this, they get a warrant and then they go track down. Of course, when you're throwing something away, I'm not sure they need a warrant. I mean, they need a warrant to get DNA from you, right? To make you give DNA. But I'm not sure that if you just throw it in the trash, that's sort of fair game, right? And that's how they catch a lot of people with these DNA matches.
It's just unbelievable work. Hansen was booked into jail with no bond, and he was awaiting his first court hearing. When Brittani found out, they said she was on vacation when she got news of the arrest.
And here is that story.
In custody.
2 words Albuquerque police say they've wanted Brittani Marcell to hear for nearly a decade.
She's gone through a lot, not just physically, but mentally too, not knowing if he's going to be coming around the corner again to finish her off. Brittani has sacrificed 9 years of her life, while her attacker has been able to live a normal life.
Part of that normal life for Justin Hansen spent here at a home in Bosque Farms. Police say it's not strange to think that the now 33-year-old never strayed far.
Where have you been all this time?
Let's just go this way.
We've learned Hansen, who has 4 children, may have been violent in the years leading up to the attack on Marcell. Court documents show Hansen committed battery as a juvenile. He was accused of beating his pregnant girlfriend in 2004, then of rape by an ex-girlfriend in 2007. But a court website shows no charges were ever filed in those last 2 cases. People around Bosque Farms were shocked to hear of the arrest, including his next-door neighbor.
That gives me chills, yeah. Good family, outgoing. We've known him for a long time. Just good neighbors, you know.
But Marcell's mom says the family has no doubt Hansen is the man who attacked Brittany that day back in 2008 and has a plea to anyone else who he may have hurt.
For anybody else out there that may know something, don't be afraid. Come forward. If you have something against him or he's tried to violate them or assaulted them, come forward now.
Wow, so we learned an enormous amount about 33-year-old Justin Hansen from this story. Violent past, right?
Yeah.
This is accused of beating a pregnant girlfriend back in 2004. That's 4 years before he attacked Brittany. Accused of rape in 2007. That's a year before he attacked Brittany. So clearly something's wrong with this guy. He has 4 children of his own, I think by 2 different mothers, right?
Yes.
So, but as you mentioned earlier, just living his life as though there's nothing going on. I mean, way below the radar. And because these cases never went to trial, the charges eventually get dropped. Nothing comes of these cases. So he's not on anyone's radar.
And he's just, he's got this track record of being horrible to women.
Mm-hmm.
And and they still doesn't face any punishment, and it goes under the radar, goes on living his own life. What a relief, as you saw in there, for the family that they finally, she was just so scared of, like, is this guy coming back after me? And like knowing that he is now in jail, it was a huge relief for her. And then we went back, 9 years later to the neighborhood where it happened. And Brittany and her family had moved. They didn't want to have anything to do with that area anymore. They had moved off and found a different home. But we went back to that neighborhood, and there was just this huge sigh of relief. One neighbor telling us that they were just in disbelief for 9 years, and they never felt safe going home every night.
Yeah.
And then another neighbor was just saying that he just couldn't believe that somebody could do something like that and then just walk away all these years and not be found. So they were so glad that there was finally some sort of closure, and they had finally gotten a suspect. So that, and that this person is going to see justice. Going back to Justin, as you just said, he's living his own life. We start digging into what he's been doing the past 9 years after this attack. And we learned that he didn't go very far. He was in Bosque Farms. And documents revealed that he had visited Brittany at the mall. We're still trying to figure out, why would you do this? And this is Marissa Lucero reporting.
That bad of an attack on my life, if my mom would not have come home that day, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Brittani Marcell, now 26, was just 17 when police say the Cibola High student went home to meet her mom for lunch, and a man beat her with a shovel, nearly killing her. The attacker ran off when Marcell's mom got home. After a coma, Marcell woke up in the hospital with no memory of who put her there. Not until last year, she says, when she remembered Justin Hansen's name. She says he used to visit her at work at Cottonwood Mall, and police now say DNA evidence links him to the 2008 crime scene.
Seeing the criminal who almost killed you almost 9 years ago, well, you're going to have to face him one day. And it looks like that day is today.
Marcell and her family sat in court today for a hearing on the state's request to keep Hansen behind bars with no bond. The defense says police have the wrong guy, and his ex-wife took the stand to show Hansen's not dangerous.
He's probably the best father ever.
He has 3 young children.
He cared more for those kids than himself. He did everything he could for them, day and night.
Prosecutors pointed to complaints of a mutual battery between Hansen and a pregnant girlfriend in 2004 and rape of an ex-girlfriend in 2007. But the defense argued Hansen was the only one with extensive injuries from the battery, and the woman who reported the rape eventually took it back and didn't prosecute. With no felony convictions and no arrests in the 9 years since the shovel attack, a judge decided to allow Hansen's release.
And this is a horrible case. I freely admit that. But that's not why we're here. The law presumes that until a person's convicted, they don't belong in jail.
I just don't agree with that at all. I think he should just be behind bars.
So that was a bit of a shocker. He does this. They finally get him. And that was Judge Brown in district court allowing him out.
Justin Hansen back out on the streets after 9 years after the attack on Brittany, a brutal attack with a shovel, almost killed her. And they learn he has this other criminal history where he's accused of beating a pregnant girlfriend, then later accused of raping a different girlfriend.
Yeah.
Those charges never come of anything, but that's on the record, those accusations. And the judge in this case says, yeah, we're going to let him out. That's absolutely shocking.
And then not only did they let him out, I mean, he once again goes back to living his own life as much as even, he's got an ankle monitor, going to sporting events, and just, we kept reporting on what he was doing while he was out. And it was just a bit of a shocker.
Yeah. And I'm also always a little struck about what is always the duality, right? There are people who are horrible people, and every moment of their life, they're preying on people, they're predators, they're attacking people, they're just basically uncivilized, right? But then you have people like Justin Hansen, who's living this duality where he has this woman saying he's the best husband ever, right? She's defending him despite hearing about and that maybe he doted on his kids, who knows? But he has her believing that he cares deeply about his kids and he's taking care of them. He would do anything for them. He would never hurt anybody. So it's a weird, which is true of serial killers. It's true, whether it's BTK, who had a fairly normal home life, but was at the same time committing these crimes. So the same sort of thing where he's done this horrific crime and he's accused of other similar crimes. And the other similar crimes makes me wonder too, was he trying to rape Brittany? Right. Was this like, I'm going to beat up this girl and rape her and then leave her?
And
I mean, who knows? And we'll never know the answer to that, right?
Yeah, and that was just one that was just so shocking because what led him to that point? You meet this high school young woman in the mall. Like, did she reject him? And he didn't like it? Was he trying to rape her? Like, there were so many questions about why would you do something to this innocent young girl.
Unless Justin Hansen shares the details with us, we will never know the answer to those questions. What his motivation was to go to that house. Was he trying to rape her? Like you said, humiliation is a pretty powerful feeling. Did she reject him and humiliate him and say, leave me alone, you're a perv, you're too old for me, and then he couldn't handle that? Who knows? I mean, it's some of this will always remain a mystery, even though we figured out who the bad guy is.
And the way they figured out the bad guy, a year later we go back and we looked at the technology they used. And this was up and coming technology. Again, this was back in 2017 when we're starting to see all this new technology involving DNA and how sophisticated it gets. And it's pretty amazing on how they were able to use this new technology. APD did. And News 13's Marissa Lucero walks us through that.
After nearly 10 years and no arrests, APD exhausted all its leads in the attack that almost killed then Cibola High senior Brittani Marcell.
If my mom would not have come home that day, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Marcell was in a coma. She woke up with no memory of her attacker until last year when she remembered the name Justin Hansen.
Because this case was so old and there was no leads and we just had a name.
And DNA evidence left behind at the scene after detectives say Brittany's attacker cut himself jumping through a window to escape. APD ran with the name and took the investigation one step further and used a newer technology out of Virginia called Parabon Snapshot DNA.
You get a sample of the DNA, they're able to recreate an image. It's an exclusion process. You can exclude 49 people and get down to the one person.
Police departments across the nation are now turning to the company to help narrow down their searches. It takes DNA samples and produces trait predictions for persons of interest, like what color of eyes, hair, and skin they would have, even down to the shape of their face. In this case, Parabon Snapshot came up with this. On the right is one of Hansen's old mugshots. The left is the snapshot profile.
And you're looking at both pictures side by side. It's jaw-dropping.
It was the first time detectives used the technology, but APD says it won't be the last.
It will bring justice to those who need it. It'll bring closure to families that have been waiting a long time, and I'm sure it'll start closing cold cases rapidly.
Now, for this case alone, it cost APD nearly $3,100. APD says it'll only explore using this option of new technology for homicide cases, rapes, and other cold cases. Back to you, Brittany.
Wow. So, Jess, as you were mentioning, this was the cutting edge of sort of DNA at the time, where DNA had been used decades before in primitive ways, and you could match someone's DNA or say, okay, this is that person. But this is the first time that really forensics is using DNA to say, oh, wait a second, we can look at DNA and predict what this person looks like based on their DNA.
It's unbelievable, even down to, I mean, not just the color of your eyes, but like the shape of your face. Just really incredible technology. And this case alone cost about, to use that profile creation, it cost the city about $3,100. And at the time, APD was saying that it would explore the option of using this kind of technology in other homicides, rapes, and other cold cases to help kind of pinpoint some of the suspects.
I'm going to make a prediction, Jess, which I'll probably be wrong about. But I predict that 10 years from now, if we're still doing stories, you know, if I'm not in a home somewhere, they'll be using DNA to tell you exactly what someone looks like. It won't be just, I think this is what they look like. They'll take the DNA and they'll say exactly. They'll refine this process and get more of the genes involved and be able to say, oh, I've got to drop your blood. Let me print you a picture of what he looks like.
Yeah.
Tell me, and then they can age it and say what at different ages we can tell. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg for where this technology is going.
Absolutely, and just how much we've grown since this is 2017, and just how much we've grown from there. And as you mentioned in one of our past episodes, like, just it's going to be so much easier to solve all these cases because we have, you know, cell phone. We can pinpoint cell phones. We have ring cameras, which was a huge development. Yeah. There's cameras everywhere in the city now, and so on top of the technology, it is comforting to know that there are a lot of different ways that, you know, we're able that we've just developed in the past, you know, decade or so.
So we're going to leave this at this point. Let's we agree on this. Justin Hansen in custody.
He's in custody. Well, no, Justin Hansen.
No, I'm sorry. He's been arrested. He's been charged, but he's been
out on
let out.
A GPS monitor by Judge Brown lets him out, and then we have the trial, and we're going to have all those pieces of this case coming up in our next New Mexico Crime Files.
Much more to unpack.